Hi everyone, my name is Vincenzo Tamassi. I'm going to be talking all about how a turbocharger works. Shown right here is just a simple Garrett turbo, really common. So what is a turbocharger? So a turbocharger is basically a vessel that forces air to the engine. This is a cutaway view. It's broken down into the impeller in the front that sucks in the air. There's actually a bearing right here that reduces all the friction from the front half of the section. There's a coupling in between that, so in case it has a failure, it breaks the coupling instead of destroying the rear propeller and throwing stuff into your motor. There is a fluid system here. This is the top fluid. I think the cold goes on that side. I'm not sure exactly which turbo this is, but the cold I think goes on this side of this turbo, and it runs around the housing, and then the hot actually comes out of this side right here, which is fueled back into the coolant. And the rearwards is the rear impeller that actually is the driving force to push the air into the engine, and also to pull the exhaust out. And so basically how they work is, here's your engine right here. You have cold air going in from the outside environment, then you have the exhaust fueling that and spinning. The cold air goes through the intercooler, goes through the intercooler here and then goes into the engine. So the colder the air, the more power you get regardless. And you're actually forcing that air in. So again, the more air you get in, the more fuel you can put in, the more power you get from your engine. And once the engine is firing, the exhaust actually, again, fuels it faster. So as it spools up, the faster it goes, the more power you get. So it's a never-ending cycle. You can put as much boost as you want until you blow the motor. Obviously, there's a leeway between each one, like blowing the motor and running reliably. Some common names for turbochargers. They're actually called snail power. In New Zealand, they call it snail power, just as a joke, I guess. This is Turbo the Snail. He's not actually turbocharged, I don't think. He does have an induction, so I don't know, it could be. The benefits of a turbo is fuel consumption, noise pollution, if you don't have a nice exhaust, high altitude performance, size and weight, and reduced emissions. So it's, like I said, it's more fuel efficient, so either way you're getting reduced emissions. Talking a little bit more about fuel consumption, it uses much less fuel than a smaller part engine size. So if you have a V8, you can get the same power from like a 4-cylinder and use like basically half the cylinders and have the same power, if not more. I know some 4-cylinders make over 1,000 horsepower, whereas most V8s, a stock V8 in a truck makes about 250. So it just depends. A turbocharged engine can get up to 40% better fuel efficiency. So you're forcing air in and you're making it cooler, so you're getting efficiency a lot higher than the regular, just normal intake that just pulls air in from the motor itself. So this is a comparison of a 2.0 4-cylinder. You have the same volume of displacement, you have the same stroke and bore size. The compression ratio is different because you're forcing air in, and the power is 110 horsepower at 6,000 RPMs. And the turbo version has 147 horsepower at a range from 5,100 to 6,000 RPMs. You're getting actually like a little bit around 34% more power. This is produced based on more low-end torque and more top-end torque. And the torque itself analyzes 200 Newton meters at 3,500 RPM. But if you notice, you have 280 here, even at 1,800 RPM, and it runs all the way up to 5,000. So you have a larger power band. Much more power down low, much more power, way more power up top. Noise pollution, like I said, it's a smaller engine, so you're producing less noise without a race exhaust. Some cars actually, or some areas require turbochargers, like some areas in Europe. If you don't have a turbo on your car, it's actually going to be producing more pollution and be louder than emissions allow. So a lot of car companies now are designing like Ford switched over to their EcoBoost. Probably not because of emissions, but it helps a lot with emissions. Since the turbocharger is powered by exhaust gas, it actually silences the exhaust. If you have a normal exhaust on a turbocharger, you actually produce less exhaust noise than a normal car that does not have a turbo on it, because it is fueling the turbo itself. High altitude performance, a lot of planes are turbocharged, just normally aspirated. They're turbocharged engines because normally aspirated engines actually don't operate at these altitudes. They don't have enough power or enough flow going into the engine, whereas a turbocharger pushes the air no matter what. And the larger the pressure difference between the outlet or outside air and the inside engine air, the more power you get. So it's actually doubling the power almost when you get up to altitude. Like I said, turbos create their own air pressure. They are spinning constantly. The more the engine spins, the faster the turbo spins, so the more pressure you have. Also, the increase in density of the air creates more power. So not only the altitude, but the density of the air makes more power, and it's also cooler. So you're just basically compounding the effect of a turbo just by going up in altitude. Size and weight. So this is like a ridiculously large V8 with two forced induction blowers on it. Probably makes about 2,000 horsepower, but it's just obnoxious for no reason. That's probably just a little bit. But you can get a four-cylinder the same amount of power, and it's like tiny. Smaller engines can be used to produce the same power, therefore weight is reduced also, so you're getting efficiency just by reducing weight. The lighter the car, the more efficient it is. So in order to make more power on a naturally aspirated engine, you need to add more weight. You need to add these blowers here, or some kind of other forced induction, or increase the strength of the inside of the motor, so internals. Reduce emissions. CO2 is reduced because you're using exhaust gas to fuel the car. Some of the thermodynamic analysis is the compressor runs to the combustion chamber, which is constantly powering this turbine, which is using exhaust gas and going back in. So work in goes work out, and then also gets back into the turbine. So it's just a constant cycle. And this is just a model of the Brayton cycle, just a comparison to the Brayton cycle. It pretty much is the same thing. Extra info. So basically, boost is the amount of power or amount of pressure you have in your turbo. Basically, if you run anywhere from like 0 to 6 pounds, or depending on the car, from a four-cylinder, probably 0 to 6 pounds is safe. You'll never really push your engine to the limit you don't want to go. And anywhere above that, it's just making more power, but you're risking your engine itself. The blow-off valve is the gap between the exhaust pushing in and the amount of pressure putting out. So if you have a large gap between that, you actually create an explosion. So they have a valve right after the turbo that is connected between the intake and the turbo, which if it goes too high, it just blows off the excess power. Basically, when you shift, it blows off because you have a lot of power at that point. And then the benefit of the detriment to running high boost, like I said, you can blow the motor. So that's the only detriment of it. And then some people believe boost is snail farts. So it could be, I mean, technically it is the exhaust of a snail-looking device. And then there's just a picture of a blow-off valve, just to give you an idea. It's just a pressure release valve that you mount at the end of the turbo. And this is what happens when the blow-off valve does not work. It blew the entire cylinder wall out of that piston. So, and that's it.
Wait, it blew what out? Okay.
It blew the cylinder wall out of that piston. Like the whole cylinder wall is gone. But any other questions?